Hey y'all, welcome back. I have got seed starting on the brain and it is not quite time for me to seed start just yet. I've got another couple weeks to go, but you better believe I can talk about it all day long. So that's what we're going to talk about today are my seed starting essentials and some cheaper alternatives in case you are on a budget like me. So here in Central Arkansas, I've got another couple weeks or so before it's really time for me to get into really starting seeds for all of our summer crops and our seed sale or our plant sale we do in the spring. But I'm ready. I've got everything prepared. I've got my calendar out with all the dates that I'm going to be starting specific seeds and varieties and whatnot. And if you're interested in learning how I'm doing that and the process I go through to determine when I should start seeds, you can drop a comment below and just let me know, and we could do a video on that. We could sit down and talk about that one day. But today I wanted to talk about seed starting essentials and what I personally think is needed, or what I think things that I personally use to start seeds. I was sitting down last night just going through a checklist, making sure I had everything ready, making sure everything was working properly, and I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to go through and talk about the things that I think you might want to think about having on hand if you want to start seeds. So before we get started, like always, this is not like the end-all be-all to a seed starting essential list of things. These are just things that I use and that I find handy and that I think are essential. You're going to get all sorts of different opinions from different people, but I thought this might be helpful just to kind of get you a head start. So the number one item on my list here is probably pretty obvious to some, but it is actually, I'm going to talk about it a little bit because it's a mistake I have made in the past, but you want to start with a good seed starting mix. Obviously, you have to have some sort of medium to grow your seed in. And a good seed starting mix is going to be imperative to your success in seed starting. I've showed you in the past what I've used. It's called SunGrow Professional Growing Mix. I use that simply because it came recommended to me. I can get it locally at a local nursery in a neighboring town. Right now, it comes in these giant 3.8 cubic foot compressed bales, I think is what it is. Right now, I can get them for about $40 plus tax per bale. Make sure that you're not buying potting mix. And I say that because I have done that in the past. When I first started gardening and I wanted to start my own seeds for our home garden, I had no idea that there was a difference in the bags of dirt that you bought from Lowe's. So I just bought some random potting soil of some sort. Had a lot of heavy pieces in it. Honestly, I don't even know what was in it, but it had a lot of heavy stuff in it. Seed starting mix has to be light and fluffy. And I got, I want to say, close to 0% germination. And in hindsight, it was because those poor little delicate seeds could not germinate in such heavy soil. So make sure whatever you do go with, make sure it's light and fluffy. If you buy something from the store, get something that says it's designed to start seeds in. It's designed for seed germination, and you should be good to go. Number two on your list, obviously, should be seeds, because obviously you can't start seeds if you don't have seeds. Over the years, we've used several different brands of different seeds, and I'm still trying out new brands right now. One of the brands that I'm trying out this year for some pepper varieties is Osborne Quality Seeds. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I watch Josh Satin at Satin Hill Farms videos, and he talks a lot about them, so I'm going to give them a shot this year. We use a lot of Johnny's seeds. We use Botanical Interest. I learned of them from Jill at Whispering Willow. They get really good germination. We've used Baker Creek. Oh gosh, Haas Tools has good seeds. So there's all sorts of places you can buy seeds from. You can go to the store and pick you up some seeds. Obviously different companies have different reputations for quality of seeds. You can do that research on your own, a quick Google search to tell you, who has the best quality and who has the best germination rate. But those are some of the brands that I've used in the past and that I would recommend. Okay, so you've got your seeds and you've got your seed starting mix. Now, obviously, you need something to grow in, correct? So you got to have something to put your dirt in and put your seed in. There's all sorts of options. I did a video recently on soil blocking, so that's the method I'm going with this year. I got this bad boy in finally. It's my 35 cell soil blocker. All sorts of sizes and different cell count soil blocks out there. Another one that I'm really interested in is a mini soil blocker. It's a 20 cell soil blocker. I think they're 3/4 inch cells. I'll link all these for you so you can check them out for yourself. That's the method I'm going with. So you can also use plug trays, right? So you need soil blocks or plug trays of some sort. These can get really expensive. And when it comes to the things like these plug trays, you get what you pay for. You can go the cheap route. There are a lot of options out there where you can get them for a lot cheaper. They'll work for you. Likely they're only going to work for a season or two, just depending on how well you take care of them, and I mean just depending on the quality of them really. So just know that they're probably not going to last forever. They're not going to last very long. There are other brands out there that you can buy that are going to last you a lot longer. You're going to pay more for them, but they're going to last you longer. For a more affordable alternative, the soil blockers, depending on what you buy, how many you buy, yeah, they can get pretty expensive. I paid, I want to say, between $40 and $50 for this one. This big bad boy here was more like $250. So yeah, those do get kind of costly. So if that's not in your budget this year, these plug trays, y'all, I have so many of these. And they were free. I got them last year or the year before. Local strawberry farm. They order all of their plugs, strawberry plugs. She didn't want to just chunk her plastic, so she gave them all to me. So I got those for free. Another cheaper alternative would be just to use some like solo cups or something. You can get those little tiny cups too that you see like in bathrooms, you know, those little, I don't even know what you call them, but they're just the tiny little cups. You can start seeds in those. You're obviously going to need to like drill some holes in the bottom of them so they can drain water. But there are cheaper alternatives out there. If you do know of any local strawberry farms to you, I would definitely try reaching out and just seeing if they are starting to order plugs or they got plugs in and they're willing to let you use their trays. So that's definitely an option. It's not just a cheaper option, but it's a free option, and free is always awesome. So something else that you probably want to think about are grow lights. So if you've ever started seeds, you know that if you start any sort of seed and you don't put it under light, a pretty close light, then you're going to get a leggy seedling, which is just a really tall, weak seedling. A lot of times those things can be corrected when you up pot things. That's a different video for a different day. But if you will get in the habit of using a grow light, you're going to really just avoid legginess altogether. That being said, grow lights get really expensive. If you've ever looked them up, they get very expensive. I personally don't own a grow light or something that is advertised as a grow light. I own shop lights and they get the job done just fine, and that is your cheaper alternative. I will link the ones that I got. I think I've had them for 3 years now. I don't remember exactly what they cost me. I want to say it was roughly around $50 for a pack of like 10 grow lights. If you're in a position where you can purchase some sort of grow light or shop light, I definitely would look into that if you've not ever tried it before and you have an issue with leggy seedlings. Heat mats are another one, and it's also going to depend on what kind of seedling you're starting. Things like peppers, they really do require a little extra heat to get them going. Once you see that germination, you take them off the heat and they're good to go. Just like grow lights, heat mats can get pretty expensive. I own one heat mat, and actually this year I was looking into buying more, and then I got to Googling cheaper alternatives. And there are also some different farms that I follow on Instagram that have some really great ideas. So here are some cheaper alternatives for heat mats. So a free alternative is actually, it came as a recommendation from a local farmer that I do the plant sale with, and he doesn't own heat mats. He uses his dryer. So he puts all of his seedlings on his dryer. It provides just enough heat to get those guys going, and then as soon as they are germinated, he takes them off and he does the next round. So that's a free option. I've heard of people using the tops of their fridge, their refrigerators, as a heat mat, because again, that gives off just a little bit of heat. You don't need a lot of heat. If you have too much heat, you're going to do damage. You're not going to get germination at all. So you just need the slightest bit of heat. I've heard of people using their computers as a heat source to get seedlings going. So you just put it on top of, obviously not the computer screen, but the actual computer itself. You just stick them right on top of there. It gives it just enough heat to get it going. Something that I'm going to be trialing this year that I've heard multiple people use with really good success. Actually, two different things. One is going to be Christmas lights. The other thing are those rope lights. The only thing that you run into with Christmas lights and any sort of light, really, it can't be LED, because you know LED doesn't put off any heat. So you want it to be incandescent. Okay, so you want it to put off a little bit of heat. So people will take their Christmas lights that are not LED, or they'll take those rope lights and they'll just do like a weaving pattern and then set their tray right on top of that, and it gives it just enough heat to get those seedlings going. So those are some cheaper alternatives, or even some free alternatives for you. Another thing that you're going to want to look into, especially if you're going to be doing bottom watering or soil blocking, if you do a soil block, obviously you're going to need to have some sort of surface to put those blocks on, and something like a 10-20 tray is kind of what you want to look for. I'll give you some different alternatives you could use. But if you're looking into purchasing actual 10-20 trays, again, you get what you pay for. I'll say I have got a ton of these trays. I used them all last year. Last year was the first year I used them. I bought them new last year. And I'm telling you, I got what I paid for. They were pretty cheap, and they're already cracking. And I can tell probably by the next year or the next year I'll need to replace them, which is okay because I didn't pay just a whole lot for them. So depending on how many 10-20 trays you're going to be buying, it does get costly. I get it. Even the cheaper alternatives or the cheaper versions like what I've got, it still gets costly if you have to buy a whole bunch of them. So some cheaper alternatives that I've seen people use in the past and that I've also used in the past, lunchroom trays. So I've not ever used the lunchroom tray technique, but you know those old school lunchroom trays. If you went to public school, then you probably know what I'm talking about. I have heard of people being able to get those for free as schools are like getting rid of them, getting new ones. They'll get a whole bunch of lunchroom trays and they use those as their 10-20 trays. And I would think that would be an excellent alternative. First of all, it sounds like it'd be free. Secondly, those things are pretty sturdy, so they probably last quite a while. And it does have, they have the little lip on the side, so if you're bottom watering, it'll hold the water in. Another thing that I've used in the past and I've seen other people use, which works well, they don't last long. It's not a really sustainable option, but sometimes, you know, you have to do what you can afford, are those, it's almost like a lunchroom tray, but it's the styrofoam version you can get at your local grocery store. So if you'll use the styrofoam version, again, if you're real careful with them and you take really good care of them, you'll get several uses out of them, but they're not going to last as long as like a 10-20 tray or those lunchroom trays. So the last thing on my essential list would be plant markers. If you're like me, you have definitely started multiple seeds and not marked them appropriately, thinking that you would remember what they were, and then next day you've already forgotten and you have no idea what you've got. So plant markers are definitely an essential. Y'all, plant markers get expensive too, depending on how many you buy. So there are cheaper alternatives. I've seen people take old window blinds and cut them up and use those as their plant markers. You can get, I don't know how much cheaper this is, but you can get like popsicle sticks at the craft store. I mean, heck, you could save your kids popsicle sticks if you wanted to get real frugal. So you can use popsicle sticks. Another thing I've done in the past, I'll show you with this. This is how I did a lot of it last year. Put this in here. I would start a whole tray of, say, Brandywine tomatoes, and instead of, I would either put one marker in here for the whole tray. I would say Brandywine times 50, so I knew they were all Brandywine, or I would just put some tape here and right here Brandywine. And then of course, when it's time to up pot and separate things, then you're gonna have to label them, especially if you're going to a plant sale. You need to label everything. The last thing I'm going to include on my essential list, which is not necessarily essential, but it's something that I like to have on hand when I'm seed starting, is a really mild fertilizer, and what I use is fish emulsion. The only reason I do that is because a lot of times these seed starting mixes, they don't have any nutrients in it. It is purely just like a medium to get this seed going. and get the seedling going. And so there's really no nutrients in it. So depending on how long you're gonna have this seedling in a pot without going into the ground without any nutrients, sometimes they do need a little hit of some sort of nutrients. Obviously you don't want to do anything real strong. I've had really good luck with fish emulsion because it's really hard to mess that up. But I do keep that handy just in case I'm noticing, you know, any sort of nutrient deficiencies in my seedlings as we get going. Okay, y'all, that is what I've got on my seed starting essential list. I'm about to get out of this greenhouse because it is hot. I'm looking at the I'm sweating. I've got like upper lip sweat right now. It's 80 degrees in here right now. I think it's like 50 outside. So it's hot. I'm actually gonna be, my brother-in-law is supposed to be coming over. My brother-in-law is an electrician. Praise the Lord. He's the one that did all the electrical work in here for me, and he's actually coming over here after a while to check on some things. Just gearing up for seed starting season. I got to make sure my heaters are going to be efficient because they were not very efficient last year, so he's coming over to look at that for me. But yeah, I'm going to get out of here, get a couple other things done around here. If there's anything else I've got seed starting on the brain, y'all. Seed starting, I'm excited. This is an exciting time of year, and I feel like most of you get pretty excited too. So if there's anything you're wanting to know about seed starting or preparing for it, shoot me a message or comment down below. I'll see that before I see anything else. Comment down below with different content you may want to see on that, because I would be more than happy to share my experiences with you guys if I'm able to, if I have experience in that. So comment below if you want to see anything else on seed starting. I'd love to share that with you, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.